Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside Centura Health Training Center for another episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones. And coming up on today's episode, the Broncos return back to practice as they're set to face the New York Jets this Sunday. We'll hear from head coach Sean Payton, quarterback Russell Wilson, and safety Justin Simmons as they look ahead. All that and more coming up. Broncos return back to the practice field today as they've set their focus on the New York Jets. As the team returns home to Empower Field at Mile High this Sunday, head coach Sean Payton detailed where he thought the team improved last week.
I felt this way after the win, and I was a little bit guarded. I was excited we fought back. Clearly, we're playing well in the kicking game right now. Offensively, I feel like we can be a lot more efficient. And then defensively, the number one thing are these explosives. Especially with the type of defense we're playing, that has to get cleaned up. And so would I have liked to be sitting here at the quarter pole 4 weeks in where those things, I would. And yet, it's still something that we have to see each week addressed and get cleaned up. Offensively, I mentioned it relative to the operation. Our red zone numbers were good last week, and yet, there's still enough meat on the bone when you actually look at the tape closely.
He also mentioned quarterback Russell Wilson's performance and described Russ as locked in.
On game day, man, he's on point. He knows exactly decision-wise what we're thinking. I can't think of situations where I'm sitting there looking at the iPad or I look at the picture still and wondering, why he's locked in. He's playing well.
We also heard from quarterback Russell Wilson today as he talked about the offense's success early this season and what he credits that to.
I think there's a few things, too. I think, first of all, we've got great players making great plays. I think that's a big thing. I think second thing is that the line is doing a tremendous job giving enough time to make those throws and make those plays and get outside the pocket if it's not there and do those things. I think the third thing is that we're all working at it together. I think we're coached extremely well. We're being taught exactly, the detail. You guys are out here on Fridays, the detail that we go through, and Coach Payton's walking through every little detail and every single route and every single concept. And, we spend, 45 minutes of just walk through, speed through, reps in the red zone, and then practice starts. So I just think that, we spent a lot of time on it. We've done some good things there, and we can be even better. And I think that's where our focus is keep capitalizing, scoring touchdowns and trying to do that.
Looking ahead to Sunday's matchup versus the Jets, both head coach Sean Payton and quarterback Russell Wilson talked about how dominant this Jets defense is and the challenges they present.
I'd say it's physical. I'd say they're extremely well coached. They're extremely talented. If you go back and Robert was with San Francisco, we played him a couple times when I was in New Orleans, 19 and 20, and then he goes to New York in 21. I think we played him in 21. With the Jets. And so there's some things that you see that carry over scheme-wise. Now, as you begin to add new players into this scheme, corners, safeties, the defensive lineman, the inside linebacker, this is a real physical front. They give you a handful of looks, but the looks they're giving you aren't complex. What they do in those looks, though, that they do very well. And so when you put the tape on, they're tough in the red zone, extremely hard in the red zone. But I think it's a heavy team. What I mean by that, when you're running the ball, you're seeing two really good inside players. Obviously, the edge players the same way. So, when you put a good scheme, good coaching with really good talent, you end up with a defense like this.
They got a great defensive line. They move around really well. They're physical. They know how to get to the quarterback and do some great things there. Their linebackers are as smart as it gets. They move around great. They're physical as well. And it all starts with Mosley there, right in the heartbeat in the middle of it. Their back end, I've played against DJ Reed, in Seattle. It's great. He was a great teammate, just a guy who worked his butt off every single day. So I know how prepared he gets every week. Sauce Gardner, a young guy who's as talented as it gets. He's got some really good things he does. The secondary, Amos and Whitehead, and those guys. Amos has played a long time. Whitehead has made some great plays for them. A great athlete. So it's going to be a great challenge for us.
And on the other side of the ball, safety Justin Simmons talked about the Jets offense and what he's seen from Jets quarterback Zach Wilson and running back Breece Hall.
I thought what I saw from him when he was playing against Kansas City was really good, and I'm definitely trending in the right direction. And I think that's what a lot of people saw. You know, he has all the athleticism, he has all the wherewithal to be an NFL quarterback and to do it at a high level. And you don't just go toe to toe with Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they have a really good defense as well. And so that speaks volume to him and the guys around him and that team and the resilience they have. And we're going to have, like I said, in order for us to win on Sunday, from a defensive standpoint, we're going to have our best outing of the year. And, Zach Wilson's a big part of what they do. What's scary is I still see, the same running back that I saw on tape last year when we get ready to play him. And, I know that he had that unfortunate injury, but, man, he's firing on all cylinders. And I know there for a little bit there's a little bit of that snap count. And there is an element of getting your legs back under you, getting your pads back under you. But, man, he looks good. I mean, he's had I don't want to undermine it, but he's had a few explosives, and I mean 30, 40-yard explosives. And, they had that opening game against the Bills, and he broke that long run, and he looks really good. And obviously last year, knowing what he did and that offense did when they came down here and they played against us, we're definitely going to have to pack one of our best performances of the year this upcoming Sunday.
And in other news, here's Sean Payton on the Broncos' decision to move forward from outside linebacker Randy Gregory.
None of it's been finalized yet, and so the question was about Randy Gregory, and something we felt was just best for our team right now, timing-wise. It hadn't been finalized yet because, typically before a transaction takes place, there may be some teams interested in a trade, and but if any of that came to fruition, and we would let you guys know. But we just felt like with some of our younger players and where we're going, it was best for our team right now. Listen, well, he played 30 snaps last week, and so we just felt like these other guys were playing better, and that happens in this league. Shoot, we want the best players possible, and so there was a combination of things, but yeah, and those other guys stepped up and are. We feel like they're playing better.
Plus, safety P.J. Locke and outside linebacker Baron Browning returned to practice. Here's a look at today's injury report. Running back Javonte Williams did not participate. Outside linebacker Baron Browning, outside linebacker Frank Clark, center Lloyd Cushenberry, inside linebacker Josie Jewell, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, defensive tackle Mike Purcell, and safety Justin Simmons were all limited in today's practice. Plus, safety P.J. Locke was a full participant. Now joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio is a fellow team reporter, Phil Milani. Phil, thanks for joining the show today.
Sid, it must be Wednesday.
It must be. Always a pleasure to have you on, Phil.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, Phil, nothing official yet, but we just heard head coach Sean Payton talk about the Broncos' decision to move forward from Randy Gregory. Talked a lot about Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito and, how he just felt that they were performing at a higher level.
Yeah. I think the news probably came as a surprise to some people, just because, 2 off seasons ago when Randy Gregory was signed here, it was a big deal and people were excited about the potential of what he might be able to bring for the Broncos. But, I think Sean Payton said it. He said, look, I think Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito are playing better.
Right.
And last game against the Bears, Bonito and Cooper started that game. And, Sean Payton made it a point to say that in the post game, hey, Nick Bonito started, and then you saw the production in the game. I mean, Nick Bonito, 2.5 sacks. Yep. Jonathan Cooper had a sack, and of course, the two of them on the one play,
changed the whole game.
Changed the whole game, really. So I think that those two guys have been playing really well, and I think it's probably. Sean Payton said there was a combination of reasons why, but he said that they just mostly think that Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper are playing really well right now.
Definitely. Well, and other big news today, Phil, outside linebacker Baron Browning and safety PJ Locke returned to practice too. A lot of news coming out of today.
Yeah.
Good to see them back out there.
I think Sean Payton said that PJ Locke is probably a little bit closer.
Yeah.
But Baron Browning, I mean, these guys have 21 days now to sort of ramp up and get ready to go. I think the Broncos are going to be smart with these guys. Like, they don't want to just throw them into the fire, I don't think.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, anytime you can get guys healthy and they're getting closer to being back out there, I think that's a big deal. And, talking about pass rush, I mean, if Baron Browning can get back out there, I think that would be a big deal for this Broncos defense, just because last year we saw moments where Browning was really impacting games. So if he can stay healthy and get out there, I think that would be big.
For sure. Well, and other injury news too, Phil.
A lot of injury news.
A lot of injury news. Safety Justin Simmons, we heard him talk a little bit earlier. He said he's hopeful to go this Sunday. He said he was really close to going last Sunday, but it would be great to get him back out there given what we saw Sunday night from this Jets offense.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Zach Wilson looked pretty good,
he did.
And I think that anytime you lose like a guy like Aaron Rodgers, the way they did, there's like a hangover from it kind of, know. And so, I heard that Zach Wilson's really tried to instill confidence like in his teammates, like, hey, we're going to do this. And, I think that's the only position you really can take is like, hey, I'm going to do my best out there. And you saw after he made that fumble on the snap last week, all his teammates came up to him and were trying to boost his confidence a little bit after that. But yeah, I mean, if he plays like that, it's going to be a tough test.
It's gonna be tough,
And then certainly with those running backs that they have and the Broncos, the way that they've had a challenge here, particularly the past 2 weeks in stopping the run. So that's going to be a big test for them come this Sunday. But yeah, Justin Simmons coming back is a big deal just because he's a guy who tries to get everybody on the same page. You know what I mean? Some of the miscommunication issues that have been plaguing the Broncos here, I think that you insert Justin Simmons and maybe some of those things go away, and Garrett Wilson for the Jets is going to be a huge test. The offensive rookie of the year last year, this guy makes plays. He gets a lot of targets. So I think that having Justin back, if he can go this week, would be a big deal.
For sure. And we heard Justin talk about, too, the leadership that him and Kareem bring. So having them back out there together, I feel like can really get this defense on the right track. Yeah,
those guys, they don't even have to talk to each other. They just a little head
know
nod
what's
this
going
way, a wink, a kind of emotion, and boom, they're on the same page. So that's what happens when you just play together for so many years. So you can just develop that chemistry. And in the secondary, that's a huge deal because it's a bang bang.
Right.
One guy does one thing, one guy does the other thing. If they're not on the same page,
it can
be a touchdown the other way. So
you have to be reading each other's mind at that point.
Exactly. And I did think that Turner Yell played better against the Bears. So those are his playing time that he got while Justin was out was valuable.
Definitely. Well, it's going to be a challenge, too, going up against this Jets defense. I mean, they're a really dominant unit. But, Phil, I want to talk about the success that the Broncos offense has had early on. We heard head coach Sean Payton talk earlier in the show about just how locked in Russell Wilson has been this season.
9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
What have you liked about his performance?
I think his QB rating is the third highest in the league, I think. So, yeah, he looks like the guy the Broncos traded for or what they were hoping they were going to get. And, he just has that confidence. Sean Payton said that against the Bears during the comeback, that confidence is contagious and guys have to buy into that and the leadership that Russ brings. And Russ is always so optimistic, too, and positive thinking.
Yeah, he really is.
And I think that's good for this team. And he's looked really good. I mean, it's obvious that the work that he put in the offseason is paying off. Lost those 15 pounds, and he's been moving around really well in the pocket, getting outside of the pocket, making plays. The deep ball has been there, particularly with Marvin Mims. Everything that Russ can do has been on display here. And Russell Wilson was asked about it, and he was like, look, he likes to do this where he's like, the offensive line is playing really well. The wide receivers are playing well.
Gives credit to everyone.
He gives credit to everybody. And he also gave credit to the coaching staff saying, look, Sean Payton's done a tremendous job teaching what they want to do. Everybody knows what the goals are out there, and then the execution has been there. So, yeah, I mean, it really feels like this offense is going to have to be the side of the ball right now that is making the plays and keeping the Broncos in these games. And we've seen that. I mean, they jumped out to a big lead against Washington. They couldn't hold on, but the offense looked really good there. They had 2 touchdowns called back against Miami, but if those were there, you're talking about putting up a lot of points there. And then obviously last week really got into a rhythm in the second half. So, this offense is capable of doing a lot of good things. And that starts with Russ, in my opinion. This is the guy who's running the whole show. So clean up those false starts, and I think they're going to be in good shape here.
I think it's going to be exciting to see them progress week by week as they get more and more comfortable with this offense too.
Yeah, and the Jets defense is, really good, especially the front 7. Quinnen Williams there, the interior pass rush. Sean Payton talked about that a lot on Wednesday. And then C.J. Mosley is another guy Sean Payton talked about. Just, hey, it doesn't matter what camera angle you're looking at. He's where the ball is, at the end of the play. So, he's a playmaker out there. He's flying all around, and obviously Sauce on the side, on the outside. So, it's going to be a challenge. And you saw even Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs really have a hard time against the Jets. So, this is going to be a big test.
It was interesting to hear Russ talk about, going up against Pat every single day. And how that's just been preparing him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although I don't know how much they're going against each other now. More a lot of the scout team looks, but certainly in training camp where you're just really going out there and trying to attack. And we saw that last year when Sauce was on Cortland Sutton for a lot of the game. Really took Cortland out of the game there. But on the other side, Jerry Jeudy was able to get freed up a little bit, and he had a big game last year. So I don't know. We'll see what happens on Sunday. Yeah.
I think it's going to be an exciting matchup for sure, Phil.
Yeah, it's going to be a little different than the past couple of games where the opposing offense has been really good.
Right.
This one might be more of a low-scoring kind of game.
Definitely.
No, not like a 31-28 or whatever happened against Miami. We don't talk about that anymore. Or even the Washington game got pretty high in score.
That's true.
It might be a little bit more like that Raiders score, 17-16 type of deal, something like that. I could see happening on this Sunday.
I think so too. Well, Phil, appreciate you joining the show today.
Yeah, of course.
Always
Thanks.
a pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll meet you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow for another episode.